my mother, my sister who's a nurse on the front lines. The personal side is a huge list of struggles. The business side, obviously, it's a matter of changing in these uncertain times and working on the right priorities, and most importantly, really helping our members learn at this time and getting the team in the right direction and pivoting when we most need to, which is right now. So if anything, it's a struggle, but I think we're doing pretty good and we're all doing the best we can right now.
Thank you, Erica. Richard, how are you hanging in there?
Yeah, that's definitely not easy. I think both as Erica mentioned, I think both personal and business side, there are lots of things that are changing. But struggle probably is too big a word compared to millions of people who are directly or indirectly impacted by the pandemic or the unemployment. I already feel that I'm super lucky, very blessed. I think the biggest challenge definitely is about how do we, like at the personal level, how do I reorient myself to be productive in this blended environment of work and home kind of mixed together, especially when the support network around us is different, right? Either gone or it's different. For example, like when the school happens, you kind of send your kid to school for 8 hours, 9 hours, and including the after school, and you don't have to take care of that part. When you go to the office, like lunch is prepared for you. You just walk down and get your lunch. And right now, all these things have gone. You just have to readjust everything about your life and your work in order to just like make yourself to be able to solve the problem in front of you. And for this week, I mean, there's just some basic minor thing is I never thought of. It's about like, oh, how am I going to get a haircut, right? So. And I just got a pair of scissors from Target delivered to me today. We'll see how it goes. But again, in all seriousness, I think childcare definitely is the biggest one. I think for me, not just about like physically taking care of, make sure that he is safe, but also my kid is 7-year-old. Like it's a very strange environment that physically you're right next to him, but emotionally. It's a slightly different case, right? You're occupied in all these meetings. So he is expecting you to be available all the time and he's learning, but being able to handle that situation and find ways to reconcile that I think is definitely the biggest challenge for me. But again, like compared to everything going around the world, my struggle is a very minor thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad to hear you're both doing well, and I appreciate that perspective, Richard. You're right. There are a lot of folks that are definitely struggling much worse in many ways, and our hearts go out to them, especially those that are suffering the physical health ailments of COVID-19.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, for the audience, really quickly, I just wanted, for those that may not be aware of your companies or the product offerings, I wanted to have you guys give a 60-second summary of your company, your mission, and your product, specifically as it relates to the education space. And Erica, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I'll start with, so the LinkedIn Learning Platform, our mission overall is to basically connect organizations and professionals with learning experiences that make them more productive and successful, and really aligns with LinkedIn's mission as well. So if you think about our platform, we really service two types of different learners and environments. We have our consumer side of the business that you can buy as an individual learner and get the learning platform. And then we're also working with enterprise companies and corporations and governments to upskill their entire organization. And so those are two different offerings that we have. And then we have over 16,000 courses. And those are learning paths that we could create within the organization. And we also features to have custom content. So every organization is different. Every need that they have is different. So we need to have a way that they create custom content and then merge that with the content that we produce as a production studio. So we align those two things. And you know, it's great. We're seeing really great engagement results between the two. And another unique asset that we have, of course, is LinkedIn.com. So we get to really work on our LinkedIn learning platform and provide a really immersed experience there, as well as experience that you would see on LinkedIn.com feed, and bring those two experiences together. Because we find that sometimes people have a really long time to learn and they want to sit down and have that great experience, or maybe they just want to have that bite size of learning that we'll be able to do on the LinkedIn.com feed. So really feel fortunate that we're able to provide those experiences on two platforms. And then also reach. You know how large our network is of over 650 million members. We are able to have insights and really strong recommendations on what people should be learning and how to upskill and reskill. So those are some great assets that we have on the platform.
Excellent. Perfect. I remember right about when I left LinkedIn, I remember the acquisition had occurred, and it's amazing to see what it's become today. And then
Yes, we
no
finished
better
the
person.
migration end of last year, and with our massive growth, I'm so glad we're on one platform. So
That's excellent. It's always a challenge to merge two different companies together. Yep. It's always a challenge, and no better person to lead that than you at the helm there. Now, Richard, switching gears to you at Coursera, tell us a little bit more for those in the audience that don't know as much about your product. Give us the mission of the company and the product.
Absolutely. So Coursera is an online education company. We are Series E. We are a startup company. We started in 2012 by two of our co-founders, definitely Kohler and Angel Ng. They were Stanford CS professors, but they have this vision of making high quality education available to anyone and anywhere in the world. So fast forward to today, we are a leading online learning platform. We partner with 200 top universities and companies to provide the highest quality education to over 55 million learners and 2,300 companies and organizations around the world. So we have a wide spectrum of products. People can learn, basic skills through thousands of courses that we have, specializations, and all the way get fully accredited bachelor's and master degrees from top institutions. Some of the partners that we have that offer degrees on our platform, including like University of Illinois, University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan. Those are top schools in the United States. We also work with Imperial College and many of universities outside of the United States as well. Basically, we have a spectrum of education product to provide the need for different types of users around the world to equip them with skills and all the way get fully accredited credentials.
That's amazing. And I remember you hosted me for a lunch one day at your campus, and it was just inspiring to see all the folks, everyone running at this in the same direction. Very, very inspiring. On Richard, you touched on this a little bit. I wanted to ask that question on a broader level, on the broad topic of education. At least here in the United States, we have seen the cost of college and university education just rise exponentially. We've had an increased number of candidates, of course, for a very limited amount of spots at different universities. Of course, there's fierce competition for high school students trying to get into college. And then the ones that do graduate are exiting with an unmanageable amount of student debt. I mean, in my industry, I see it because I basically see them delaying their lives as they're trying to pay off the debt. They delay a lot of things. They delay the wedding. They delay the first home purchase. They delay car purchases. They stay at their folks' homes longer just to try to get through this debt. From your perspective, on a broader level, how do we as a society address this issue of affordable education, being able to get education into the hands of all?
That's a very big question, but I'll try my best to answer because it definitely aligns with the mission and how we started as a company. Right? One thing that we do realize that is while technology in many ways is pleasing a lot of people in the world. For example, a lot of the jobs these days is replaced by automation. A lot of people, if they don't have the skills, they get stuck at lower unemployment or lower paid jobs. One thing that we can do is also we use technology to counter that. And that's what we are doing, right? Both, I think, Erica and my company, what we are trying to accomplish is make it more available and accessible to people around the world. So one thing that really struck in my mind is this, right? Think about this, right? Go back the clock maybe like 10 years ago, right? We wind the clock a little bit. If someone actually need to learn computer science from Stanford or from one of the top universities in the world on just like big CS 101, like what does it take for that person to actually acquire that skills, right? So that person, first of all, need to apply to Stanford or whatever university or colleges that they want to get into. And if they are lucky enough, they get admitted. There's only a few percentage of admission for many of the universities in the world. And then they probably need to move from different parts of the world to California in order to study there. And as you said, they probably need to have a student debt of hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of that. Mm-hmm. So that is the reality that we were talking about. And it's still happening today. But if you fast forward to right now at this moment, if someone actually want to just, not necessarily getting the credential from this university, but just learn the skill, learn the knowledge to equip them with jobs and opportunities. Now, someone can be sitting in a developing country holding a $40 Android tablet. Maybe they have access to internet from a library or maybe from the mobile network. They are able to take some of these high quality courses online through different companies, including Coursera. So I think we have already made some progress to allow education and information to be more available, accessible. But we definitely far away from solving that problem. I think there's still a lot of things that we need to do. On Coursera side, I mentioned that we have this like fully accredited credentials that we start offering to our users about 3 years ago. We do that actually is for this purpose. We know that higher education becomes a very rigid product. So our partner is working really hard. They have a lot of experience doing that. But on the other hand, there's definitely a challenge on how many people that they can take care of in the settings of on campus. And the cost of operations, like they need to build the auditorium, theaters, dormitory in order to support all the students. Like all the things are expensive. So the way that we envision with our partners are like, what if we remove some of this limitation and constraints? And that result in the product that we have on the 17 degrees that we have our platform, that many students are actually taking these degrees without moving to that state. They are staying at home at a time that is convenient for them to pursue their education. And in fact, for the same degree, like they have the same on-campus degree and the online degree at Coursera, they will get the same credential at the end, but they are paying about a third to a half of the tuition fee as the on-campus program. So this is just a start, but like we definitely are committed and trying every single thing possible to make it more available and accessible to people around the world. I would say this is a starting point. We hope that in the future it's not 17 degrees or it will be like 1700 degrees, 17,000 degrees that is available in a form that much more accessible to people around the world. So that's the thing that we are trying to do. Yeah.
All right. So Richard, if I may follow up, I have in my mind when you were discussing these two dichotomies, I see one where there's a quality play where I'm a top tier university and may not want to dilute the value of my degree by offering it to everybody online. But then yet on the other side, I could see it being a huge revenue stream for a university of revenue they would not have gotten anyways for being able to offer a degree to anybody around the world. That could be, even at 1/3, that's an enormous amount of potential revenue for the school and the university. For your partners, how have they handled that dichotomy? I mean, I'm sure you have seen both sides push back on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no one university in the world. Like there are many different universities in the world, and they are in very different situations. I think the truth is that for many of the prestigious universities, they definitely have a lot of considerations about what is the implication to have like much more students in a cohort, and what is the implication to the brand. I mean, of course, they have to operate. They have endowment fund, so they definitely have very different considerations. But if you think about a lot of universities in the United States or the rest of the world, as much as like people are paying the tuition fee, like they are not necessarily in the shape that they have like billions and billions of dollars in their endowment fund either. Like they definitely have for university, they definitely have a mission of educating people. They want to teach as many people as possible. That is basically in their charter, right? On the other hand, they definitely thinking about like when they expand the reach, how does it actually use the revenue they generate to support other activities like research activities or subsidy or financial aid to other students. The online education or some of our partners working with us, they definitely have this in mind on thinking about, even though it may expand the cohort size, but they're trying really hard to invest into the quality of education. So people don't feel that, oh, the online education actually is the diluted version or the lower quality version. In fact, they put a lot of resource to make it higher quality for people. So it actually results in a pretty good win-win situation that university get more students. At the end, because the number of students, they get more revenue. And then they can invest those revenue to continue to improve the education for all their students and facilities on campus and other things in their control as well. So I would say that a lot of partners, they're starting to see it, they're starting to experience that. And of course, at the very early days, go back to a few ago, when this thing is still new, people are definitely were more skeptical about like, oh, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to our university? What does it mean to our alumni? But I think more and more people have gone through it, more and more universities have gone through it, and they have seen the benefit it brings to everyone in the university and the students, and more universities are feeling very comfortable of doing that and see how it is going to change the game. So I feel it is still ongoing, but I definitely see that there's a lot of positive traction in the last few years.
Very good. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, if I can add on another perspective, I think exactly what Richard said. I think even in this moment, it's going to help accelerate that thinking, which I'm really excited about the work that him and his company is doing. But I also think there's also a perspective that we have here at LinkedIn Learning, which is always be learning, right? Like think about like when we went to school, we got a degree. I actually was naive thinking, oh, I got my degree, I'm done learning, everything's great, right?
Yep.
But in actuality, no, you're always learning. I think about when going through the mobile era, none of us had Android and iPhone devices. We all had to learn about mobile development. Now it's AI. I mean, we're always upskilling and reskilling. And so I think if we always have that perspective that we're always learning and we always have to move everybody forward, we're going to win entirely globally. As an example, super exciting about, I would say maybe is about a month and a half ago, we partnered with Colombia, the country, and working with SINA. This is their national learning service. And we launched over 500,000 learners, so like teachers and learners, where they can get LinkedIn Learning platform for free and they can reskill and upskill. So the more that we can partner with organizations and governments and upskill the entire world and kind of create learning more at a fairness so everybody has that equal opportunity, I think is really key. So I think a lot of the things that we're doing, you need that credential, you need that proof, you need that cred, but you also need to always continue to learn and move everybody forward. So
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely, Eric. I love that hashtag that you have, always be learning. I think that's, none of us, there's things that, especially now in this day and age, everything's changing so quickly in front of us. And we have to keep up to date and not feel and get complacent that we think that we're experts in our industry. It's never the case in any industry. It's always learn, always be learning. I like that a lot. Now talking a little bit again, since COVID-19 and shelter in place has been put across the world, I'd imagine you guys have quite a bit of increase in demand on your products overall. I'm curious what the metrics have shown since shelter in place has been happening in different localities. And I'm assuming your demand as service has been increasing. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the metrics, but also what have you changed in your strategies or methodologies or your product offerings to accommodate this new normal that we have at this moment? Erica, go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so I will start with metrics. Coming from the growth team as well as on LinkedIn Learning, I'm always about metrics. We are definitely seeing people hungry to be more productive and successful in this moment. It is skyrocketing, to be honest, and it's also very exciting that we're there to actually serve and help people. So that feels fantastic. So to give you some numbers, within a month, we saw basically over 4 million actual hours being learned in 1 month. And in 1 week, we saw a peak of 1.5 million hours of content viewed. I mean, that was some of the most massive growth that we have seen in a really, really long time. And to give you an impact on what that is, like week over week metrics, that's basically a 50% increase week over week in streaming content for LinkedIn Learning. And then also in corporations, as far as the government and public sector and huge enterprises, that's where we saw a massive uptick. And we saw a 100% increase in creating learning paths and really taking their custom content, again, with our learning paths and merging that together. And the learning and development admins, they're really playing a massive role where they're helping drive the engagement because everybody's working at home and they're like, okay, this is how we can continue to learn how to service, our employees, and we're putting these learning paths, we're giving reach, and we're seeing massive amount of engagement there. And to just give you a story, we're also just learning and listening a ton in this moment. Our plan was a certain thing for the quarter, right? And we were running around, going towards that plan. And quickly it had to pivot because we're realizing the needs are changing. And I'm a big fan of, the plan is the plan until the plan changes. Well, guess what? Everything had to change. And within a week, we had to pivot some of the things, and I'll talk about what those are. Within a week, we had to pivot our priorities, our strategies, and get the team on board and to execute. And that's massive. And we're all doing it remote, right? And that's also really, really challenging in itself. But we had to listen to our customers. We're big on members first and understanding what they need. And I'll give you an example. Dynamics that we've never seen before of who's learning on our platform, the diversity of workers. They weren't our workers that we had before. Think about a retail store. Right now, they're in pain, right? They are not getting the type of business. And there was one retail store that we had where they were going to onboard, thousands of employees. They were going to start work in the retail stores, and all of a sudden this COVID thing happened. What are you going to do? So all those employees were furloughed. Basically, their start date of when they're going to return back to work was moved to a later date. We actually partnered with that organization and said, okay, what can we do in this moment? And we went to them and we worked on creating custom paths and learning paths so they can learn in this moment and then be ready when they return back to work. And that is where we're seeing these different uniqueness, which is fabulous. And we're also seeing that Detroit government, the officials, all their jobs, they're not able to work from home. We are so privileged in this moment to work from home that Richard was saying before. We can do that. A lot of people can't. So Detroit, they are basically working with us, and they're giving all their employees LinkedIn Learning and saying, hey, why don't you upskill and reskill in this moment? 20 hours, whatever you want to do. There's no commitment. Just take advantage of this moment to learn. So I think things like that and understanding what people need is really key. So what are we doing? What are some things that we changed on our roadmap? So we started making more of our content for free. So when it first kicked off, I remember even myself being naive, thinking, okay, COVID thing happened, everybody, business as usual, let's hit our targets, right? Suddenly we realized, it's business unusual. Nobody knows how to work from home. So we made all our courses to work from home on Zoom, Teams. People didn't even know how to use these, let alone teachers. We helped teachers learn how to use some of these tools. We made all those learning paths free so they have access to that. And then now we're seeing a shift. We have over 275 courses so far that we've made for free, and we're continuing to make them free on a weekly basis on blog posts. You can find them all out there. But we're also seeing it shift to now resilience and how can you be influential when you're not face-to-face and you're over at VC, and just how you can just basically be more successful. And then mindfulness is another thing. So all these courses of just helping people get through is something that we changed. And then we, not only do we make them for free and available, we have to make sure we have greater experiences so they're discoverable, right? Where they're discoverable on the LinkedIn Learning platform or LinkedIn. So we have to do a lot of momentum there. When you search for it, everything's discoverable. And then lastly, when you have a curve of growth that's up and to the right and it's a hockey stick and you're enjoying it and you're loving it, guess what? Site up is the most important thing. And it's always been a huge priority for us, site up and trust and making sure it's secure. So we've had that momentum, but we're planning for 2 to 3x the traffic in addition to what we've already been able to handle. So that's also foundations of our core engineering and site reliability engineers and making sure that we have a stable environment. You can build those experiences, but if the site goes down, that's not going to be good for anybody. So that's kind of where we've shifted a lot of our priorities. And more importantly, I'm just really excited about the team. The team is just rising to the occasion and really enjoying that they're helping. So I feel energized that we could do something about it in this moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Erica. Richard, how about Coursera? How have you guys shifted your product strategies?
Yeah, so I think since the shelter in place that happens in the United States or across the world, it really changed how the world works in just a matter of a few weeks, right? Or in a matter of a few days, actually. So we definitely seeing an unprecedented growth at Coursera, as well as people are looking for continue to learning, right? Even then when all the channels they have been able to learn no longer exist or have changed. So we have seen a huge uptake on the number of people that are coming to our platform. So some numbers, for example, in terms of registration, when the lockdown actually happened, at one point it has grown by 11 times compared to our regular data we have seen. And in terms of now, the next step, not just about registration, but the enrollment, right? We are seeing year over year, the number of enrollments has grown at Coursera by over 1,000%, like 10 times.
That was wow.
Yeah, so what we've seen, and in particular in the United States, globally is about like 700%, and the United States is about 10 times. And for certain content like healthcare, those are definitely the hottest topic that we have, right? And we are seeing like 23 times number of enrollments on healthcare courses across our product. So even though it has already been a month in the United States for a lockdown, and probably a little bit longer in some other countries, we are seeing this ever increasing engagement. We have not seen it slow down. Every week, we are seeing more and more people coming to our product and platform and trying to continue their learning on a regular basis. So you asked about the question about like, what are we doing about that? So absolutely, I think Erica actually is spot on. It's about the first thing is make sure a site is up, right? So if the site is not like, it may sound, pretty simple and straightforward, but when you're talking about you have 7 times, 10 times more traffic coming to your product in a matter of few days, that is a big challenge. I think the team worked really hard around the clock. They just want to serve. I think many of my team members, our team, cross-functional partners, everyone in the company, they just feel honor and privileged to be able to serve the world in this particular moment and juncture. So people are working really hard on this. But in terms of like specifically, except for like making sure the site is up and running, we have done a few things to try to make it easier for people to continue their education. Number one is about a month ago, back in March 14th, we have announced the Coronavirus Response Initiative from Coursera. Specifically, what it does is that we offer free access to the entire catalog to all the universities around the world and allow the university to provide high quality courses to their students when on-campus teaching is basically impossible at this moment. We actually have some data from UNESCO, that is one of our partners to help to promote with us together, is over 1.6 billion students in the world no longer have access to on-campus education anymore because of coronavirus. So we really feel that this is an urgent need that we need to take care of and help students around and university around on how to mitigate a situation. So we announced this initiative to universities in the world, and not just about like they cannot do on-campus teaching, but many of universities may not have the skills or tools or just time to actually completely change their education to online. Right. Doing online education is not a matter of like in a day, everything become online. It takes a lot of effort and energy and just like basic training for the instructor. So by offering this effort, we hope that will allow the university to be able to quickly identify a set of courses to allow their students to continue their education through the catalog on our product. So up to this moment, we have received over 27,000 requests from institutions around the world to ask for the access to our catalog. And we already activated close to 5,000 of these institutions. And in a couple of weeks, last couple of weeks, we already have seen over 1 million learning hours over from these institutions. And 2 days ago, we have launched another new initiative called, it's just a technology we call Course Match. It's an AI tool, but the goal is actually use natural language process to match the university catalog and our catalog and try to quickly identify which course we have at Coursera is a good match for what they have already on campus, but they are no longer able to carry out those teaching. We have matched it with over 1,800 institutions on over 2.6 million courses. So now university can quickly say that, hey, I'm no longer able to offer these 100 courses. Now Coursera, you can actually supplement using your catalog on these like 80 courses and allow the student quickly resume their learning. And a couple of things that we also trying to do is not just on just like product functionalities and offers, but also the content that we have. We understand that this is a situation in the world that a lot of information flowing on the internet, it creates a lot of confusions and anxiety to many people around the world as well. So allowing people to access to correct information, reliable information, and relieve their mental stress is more important than ever. So we're very glad that one of our partners, Imperial College, one of the top medical schools in the world, they have produced a course specifically on COVID-19. This is one of the most informative courses that on this particular pandemic. So we see already hundreds of thousands of people enroll in this course to learn more about the pandemic. And the other course that is very important and very popular in the last month is a course from Yale University. It's a science of well-being. So I think a lot of people are going through very, very stressful time. And being able to learn how to manage their emotion, their anxiety, their frustration is critical for us to get back to the normal state of as a society. So we hope that these content that we partner with our university partners can also help our learners to get informed and also handle their life situations differently. So yeah, that's pretty much what we have been doing.
Great, thank you, Richard. Erica, I had a question for you. What is LinkedIn Learning's internationalization or localization strategy across the globe for your platform?
We have our courses in many different languages, as well as some of them are native and then obviously transcribed and everything. So we support multiple languages across, like I mentioned, we just launched Colombia. All those courses are basically in Spanish, and also having Spanish instructors and then be able to relate, right? When you're learning, you want to be able to relate to that audience and go after some of the content that is relevant to them. So that is something that we are continuing. We have studios all around the world. Actually, last year I was at our Japan studio, and that was really fun. I hope to go there soon. But we are producing content in many different countries right now. But right now, little things are a bit on hold, as you can imagine.
Yeah. So from all these courses that, let's say, take Colombia as an example, how does LinkedIn, and you seem uniquely positioned to do this, how do you connect all this learning that folks are doing on LinkedIn Learning and be able to translate it to an actual job opportunity? I mean, how does LinkedIn make that connection for the learner on LinkedIn Learning?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We have, let's start off with some of the assets that we have, right? We have over 650 million people on LinkedIn. So we have job titles, we have people, we know what the industry is. And then we also have another line of business, which is recruiter. We advertise jobs basically on our platform as well. So we have all this information. So with AI, we can build best recommendations. We know what skills are in need right now, what jobs are in need right now. And then we relate those to the courses that are required for that job. So you could see on LinkedIn.com, when there's a job that's there that you want to apply for, well, guess what? We'll have the recommended courses to help you prepare for that job interview and give you an opportunity to land that job. So if you think about all the assets that we have, use AI, use recommendations, we'll be able to be in the best place to serve, which is really, really great. And we also do it on our LinkedIn Learning platform, right? So not only LinkedIn.com, where maybe someone's a passive learner, learning is really like exercising, right? You know it's good for you. You should be doing it all the time, but you need a little nudge, right? And so if we can give you the best recommendation that would encourage you to learn in that moment when you're going through the feed or when you're applying for that job, we're able to serve that to you. And then you get the hook, and then you start learning all the time. So I think everybody's just in a different state when it comes to learning, and we're there to provide different experiences with it. But I think we have a lot of assets on our economic graph to bring it all together and do it right.
Excellent, perfect. And Richard, you and I worked in the trenches on LinkedIn in China. And that, of course, is the question I'll definitely have to ask you is what is Coursera's internationalization strategy, especially on the product side? Is there anything special that you're doing country by country, locale by locale? What is Coursera's strategy?
Yeah, so I think Coursera has been pretty global, international since the early days. If you look at our learners, right, 3/4 of learners is already coming from outside of the United States as of right now. So wow. We've been pretty international. So not just about the learners, right? But we also have university partners. So we definitely have a lot of partners in North America and United States, but we also have a lot of partners from Europe, from Asia. So it's all around the world. They have been producing many different types, many different content in the local language for their learners, like for many years already. Yes. The other side of the triangle, we always say our strategy is a triangle. We have the learners, we have the educators, we also have the employers, right? We have many of the companies that are enterprise customers. And we work with companies in Europe, like AXA, BNP. Those are some of the customers that we're working with. So we have a pretty global presence around the world. I mean, clearly, when you're working with different companies around the world, there are many different requirements. So we definitely need to think a lot about our international strategy, about the content, about the product, about the overall experience. We are still learning, for sure, always learning. Right? But overall, I think we feel very great about the opportunity to just work for a lot of different users and partners and customers around the world with different types of content to serve the need for them. Yeah.
Excellent. Perfect. Wow, 3/4, that's a lot. That's wonderful to hear that such a broad global audiences are getting on these platforms. That's wonderful. Question, switching gears a little bit, all three of us have young children, and I'm sure you're sharing some of the same pains, and I'm sure the audience is as well, helping our children through their online curriculums and schoolwork, which is a way of learning that has never, that we've never seen before, I mean, at least not in our lifetime. I mean, personally for me, I can barely keep up with my own email, my calendar, and I have to check their emails and calendars every morning as well. I find I'm sure a lot of parents are sharing this burden. What do you feel the schools are doing well with this transition, and what could they do better to make this more sustainable in the future? Erica, I'm going to start with you.
First, I will start with, I have so much gratitude for our teachers. I have a 13 and 11-year-old I was sharing with Richard, Allen, and Max before the call. It is tough to teach them to learn, and I don't have those great skills to do it. I'll give you an example. My daughter was learning how to do surface areas with complex fractions, and I literally was trying to teach her for 2 hours. She finally got it. She was determined, but I'm sure if we had that teacher there, she would have been able to do it in a fraction of the time. And I even get feedback that I'm parenting at the same time I'm teaching. So I just think there's a lot of patience that's involved with teaching. They have the right skills. I think they're doing great. I'm so impressed with the teachers of how they had to adapt to online learning so quickly. Some of them have never used Zoom, and that was one of the reasons we made a lot of our courses of how to use these online tools free very quickly. Some of them never used the tools before. They had to do that. Then they're adapting to all the students and trying to, control all of them on the screen. I can barely do it with 1 or 2 children. They have to do it with a whole bunch of children. It's amazing. So I really think they're doing a great job, and I see it even changing every single week because they're also learning, okay, that worked last week, but maybe I'm going to try something this week. So I just have massive amount of gratitude, and I think they're doing a ton, and I honestly can't wait till my kids go back to school.
Completely agree. I think many of us would hit the thumbs up button on Zoom on that one.
Yeah.
Richard, how about yourself? How are you hanging in there with the online schooling?
Yeah, Erica spoke my mind. I mean, absolutely. I think it's a very similar journey. My kid is a little bit younger. He's 7-year-old, and I would just say that this is a learning journey for all of us for sure. But we kind of get used to it. On the first few days, I feel obligated to provide all the technical support for him. And he has never used Zoom before. He has never used all these tools that the school pulled together quickly. I feel that I have just to set up everything in front of him. But you know what? Just in a matter of week, like he's just like observing what I'm doing on the computer. And in a matter of few days, now he became a pro. Like he knows how to pull up his schedule. He knows how to log into Zoom. He knows how to print his homework. He knows how to upload back in the system. He's completely savvy. I'm so impressed on how fast he can learn all these things. I think this is going to change him forever. Online education will just be a normal thing for him and this generation. I really echo what Erica was saying is I really appreciate the work that is done by the school teachers and the administrative staff. They pretty much pull this together in a matter of a few days and keep optimizing and improving based on the feedback from the parents, from their experience. I would say that the only thing that is not perfect, and it will never be perfect because we're always learning, is I feel that at least for my 7-year-old kid, and probably even for older kid as well, is like when we go to school, part of the thing is about learning knowledge and skills. But part of that is also interacting with their friends, with their buddies, right? To learn the social skills as well. I feel that right now the curriculum right now is very structured, and you have a bunch of things that you need to learn, and you just submit your homework at the end. There will be a lot of broadcasts. Basically, the teacher is like telling you things, but I feel that we are definitely missing out an opportunity for the kids to kind of play and interact with each other. I don't know what exactly is the impact, but I definitely think that will be something that I feel that will be something that I want to see if there's any innovation that we can do. I mean, the only thing that I'm doing is I'm organizing an ice cream social for my kid, a virtual ice cream social with a few kids of their friends over the weekend. So they can kind of like say random things to each other and have an ice cream and enjoy their time. But I think it's a way to kind of supplement the lack of social interaction between the kids. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we're heading into about the Q&A in another 10 or 11 minutes. So I know a lot of questions are coming in, so hang in there. Shifting gears again to the virtual work environment. I mean, tech, it's nothing new to be on a Zoom meeting or whatever online medium. I mean, we've been doing this for quite a while with teams across the world, but I'm sure it's still challenging. As senior leaders, how are you able to, one, keep the morale high on your team, And then secondly, also ensure that they're productive as well. Erica, what are your thoughts on the topic?
It's been evolving. At first, we started with everyday syncs because it was changing constantly every single day, and we needed to make sure that we were in sync and we were able to communicate down into the org, right? Now we're more on weekly syncs, which is great, or twice a week. So we've progressed there. But one of the things that we are constantly doing is listening and saying, okay, what struggles do you have? Ask them how they're doing their day, because what I've learned is everybody's situation is unique. Richard and I just talked about our children. You talked about your children, Alan, and at home, we have our situation that we're dealing with. Some people have newborns at home. I could not imagine going back to that stage right now. And so I think, they're caring for a loved one or someone that's sick. Like, everything's so unique. So I think the most important thing is to really understand what people need in this moment, be compassionate, be kind, and be open to what their needs are. And a lot of it is, we're so constant, like, okay, let's get in a meeting. Let's be on the VC. And I'm so stuck to this screen 24/7 that I'm trying to get out of it and do simple things like, let's take it on the phone. I don't need to schedule it on the VC, or let's try and do Slack, Teams, text. Everything does not have to be on the VC. So I think we're all learning how to adapt in this moment, because we have to get outside. We have to have some self-care for ourselves. There's a saying that you should put on your own oxygen mask first. You can help others, right? So just make sure you kind of take care of yourself, so then you can understand how you can take care of others. So that's really important. And I think we're doing good, and we're figuring it out as we go. So
yeah, you reminded me last night I was working, and then about 6:45, my wife said, "You need to get off that computer."
yeah.
And I didn't realize that it was 6:45. I mean, typically I would have logged off to go pick up a child, but I didn't have to. It just kept going, and I didn't have an off button.
Well, your worlds are together now. They merged. So when are you supposed to leave? So I try and leave every morning. I take a run with my dog. That's the way where I literally run from everyone. I'm by myself. It's my time to think. And I think if anybody can be fortunate enough to do that, they should do that, or figure out whether multitask. I do a lot of multitasking. Everything does not have to be a meeting. I can have 3 conversations at once so on Slack. So it is fine.
Richard, how about with your team? How are you managing all the challenges of staying at home?
Yeah, so I definitely think that is a new change for all of us, right? So we have distributed teams before. So we have office in Toronto, we have coworkers in New York and London and in Bulgaria. But it is a very different situation when we say that even for California, even for a particular office, like everyone is living in a different place, right? We definitely try to learn, but one of the basic first principle that we have set as a leadership team, even in the early days before we make all this decision, is about people first, right? We want to make sure that people in our organization is well taken care of. Like, if our people are not well taken care of, like, nothing matters, because our product would not work. Like, people would not be able to solve the problem for our users, for our partners, for our company. So we want to make sure our people are well taken care of. Now, for sure, I feel that in the first few weeks, because of this uncertainty, because of this is a new thing for us, I think we are really try to overdo it. Overdo it means we try to meet with people, we try to talk to people, we schedule a lot of meetings, more than ever, like in terms of number of meetings, is on the calendar. But I think the reason that we are sending this meeting partially is because there's a change. There's a change about the strategy, about product priorities, about the technology. Like, even if this crisis does not force all of us to sit at home or work at home, we probably will have more meetings even at work anyways, right? But there's another aspect of that is about, because we are not confident enough on this communication model that we have. So we try to gauge, right? And see, like, okay, how much do we need to do? And then we bias to work on the side on forcing alignment, communication, streamline the communication. And the side effect is more meetings. Which is kind of interesting. When I reflect back, a lot of conversation happens inside the office. Some of them is meeting, but a lot of them actually is not meeting, but you get information. So one of my favorite things that I did at work when we were in office is for lunchtime, I usually do not schedule any meeting. I would schedule a fixed time for my lunch, and I just walk randomly in the cafeteria and just sit down with people, like completely unplanned. and just try to meet people, try to understand what they're excited about, maybe at home or at work, what they're frustrated about, what they're nervous about. I think that is a very good way to actually get to understand your people, their frustration, what they're looking for. But right now, I cannot just like drop by a dining table in someone's home and listen into a conversation. So you need a different way to get that kind of information. You don't have the foosball table, you don't have the coffee break. So I think we are figuring out a replacement for that kind of conversation. And the most naive way to do that is basically a meeting. Let's do a meeting and ask you about how you're doing, like what is going on with you. Even though we are trying to be innovative and we're trying to do virtual happy hour, virtual coffee break, but you know, those are still exist in the form of a Zoom meeting. But I would just say that, you know, in this virtual environment, I completely agree with Erica. Like being able to set boundary is very, very important. So for me personally, the boundary I set is that I want to finish my last meeting, like Zoom meeting at 5:30 of the day. And then I promised my kid, so my kid actually, the school has the PE class for him. So it's about like, there's a prescribed set of things that he needs to do, like, you know, jumping jacks or whatever every day. So I promised to him and say that every day Daddy is going to do the PE class with you together. It allows me to exercise.
Wow, that's impressive.
Nice.
You
Yeah.
just gotta see it to believe it though, Richard. I don't know.
We gotta zoom this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we'll find an opportunity to do that. But you know, well, I kind of regret that I promised that, but but I do that. But I do that every day. I do that every day. So that actually, like, sometimes you need a symbol. You need something. You need a ritual to actually symbolize this a transition. So for me, basically, it's like setting time for dinner, setting time for a PE class with my kid. It helps me to unwind myself and get into a different zone. Yeah.
Excellent. And we're almost out of time, but this one burning question I really want to ask. And Erica, I'm a huge fan of everything you're doing for women in tech. I mean, an extremely big fan of it. You may not know, but I am. And I have 3 kids. I have 2 of them are daughters. And if you were to tell, and Richard, both of you can answer this question. I'm gonna start with Erica. If you were to tell my daughters one piece of advice about right now at age 11, age 9, as to what will take them forward and grow into an amazing person, an amazing woman as you are, Erica or Richard, an amazing career that you've had, what would that be? What would you tell my daughters?
Wow, that's a huge question because it's not one thing, but I think I'll just take it from a personal experience. I think for me, it took a really long time to be myself. I think when, you know, in this career with all these biases and we're trying to get to a better state, but when you're the only woman in the room and things like that, it can be challenging where you try and be like everybody else. So it took me a while, but I think, you know, be your unique self because everyone else is already taken. That is a famous quote that I love. And I think the more that you could do that, the better, because you are the unique thing that you bring to the table, your unique perspective, the way that you see the world, the way, I mean, think about products. If you think about our mission at LinkedIn, create, you know, opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Guess what? The stats are 50% women, 50% men. If you don't have people that are building the products, you're going to build the wrong product. I mean, you can get me on a soapbox and I can talk to you about this all day long, but it's so, so important. So I would just say to your daughters, you know, just be your unique self. Find out also, of course, what you're passionate about. And this is the same thing that I would tell my son. There's no difference. And the fact that he even looks at his sister with no difference, I'm like, I'm raising a good kid, right? The biases aren't there. We're not born with them. They are created. And I think that I'm big on male allyship. That is huge. I think we're all responsible to create an equal playing field for all and also just build the right thing at the end of the day, which is like getting closer to 50-50. That's just what the goal is.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Richard, what would you tell any of my children actually, as far as they're starting out a career and everything you've learned in your life?
Yeah, so I think my advice will be don't get defined by other people. I know that there's a lot of stereotypes in society about what a man can do, what a woman can do, what they cannot do. I'm very glad that as a man, I don't have to go through that many type of challenges compared to a woman. But when I grew up, I would say that there's a different type of challenges that we are facing as a family. So like both my parents that they have not gone through college education, and my mother she did not even finish her elementary school. So it was, because she had to take care of the family and support the family since she was like 10 years old. I remember when I was a kid, some of our family members just like look down at family and think that so we'll be poor forever. But I think my mother really showed a role model on how she did not give up and really try her best to change her life. She was originally a factory worker, and then she later applied for a job as a janitor in the hospital. So people think that this is a step down. I'm like, why you change from a factory worker to become a janitor, right? But she probably, I don't know, actually I've never asked her, but she probably have a plan in her mind is after a few years, once she actually get into the hospital, she made her way by just learning some basic English and learning some medical terms. And later she applied for a job to become a healthcare assistant, like basically it's an assistant to the nurse. I was really, really inspired by what she has done for herself and for the family, and try to improve, our family's conditions over time. So, one thing I remember from my parents is always telling me about, don't pay attention to people who say that you cannot get it done. Just go and do the things that you should do and try your best to do it. I think it shapes, they demonstrate that. It shapes how I grew up as a kid today as well. So my advice is really about like, don't let other people to define you. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. Don't let other people define you, and be yourself. I think that's a very powerful message. And I mean, I think a lot of us come from families with a lot of expectations about what we should be or what our children should be sometimes. And we put in their head, these are the three options you have, right? Almost, you go, wait, are those all the options available to me, right? I mean, I should have more options. And sometimes that family pressure at times, it doesn't allow us to be who we want to be sometimes. And I think that is a powerful message. I think if you find who you are and what you want to be, then you're more passionate about what you do. You have that love and desire, and it's not even work, right? I think it's a very, very powerful message. Thank you. I will pass that on to my children later at the end of this call. Now we're going to go right into the Q&A. I've got a few questions on the chat here. I'm going to dive right into. I'm going to start with Paige. Paige is asking the question, many learners are moving forward from group learning to individual learning, yet they're losing their ability to be a part of a community or group while they learn. How do you see this being addressed in the virtual online environment? Erica?
Okay, I'll take, so some things that we already have in our product is we also have groups that are associated with the course. So that gives you that social aspect. So you can bring people in and do questions and answers, and we have that. I think right now in this moment, we need to take advantage of events that, like this event, right? This event could be a learning event, and we can turn it into instructor-led event where you schedule an event, you have, learning material, and you make it interactive, and you do it on the chat. I mean, essentially, we're all learning from each other right now. So I think the more that we can build that within the platform. For instance, we have events on LinkedIn, we have LinkedIn Live, and you can use any platform of choice, whether it's Zoom, Teams, you can use all of that and then schedule an event and have that learning moment. And we're also trying to do it also in a not so public way. So our LinkedIn Learning platform with enterprise companies, right? They have their custom content. They have things that need to be just viewed by only them, right? And it has to be, private. And so creating those environments, that is also something that we're focused on as well, and merging like custom paths and public content and private content together to bring that learning experience. But I do feel that people, there's some people that like to learn alone, and there's some people that like to learn within a community. And so I think the more that we bring our platforms allow to do whatever fits your needs, we're going to be successful for that individual.
Absolutely. Richard, how about yourself?
So I can talk about that. So, I mean, we have different type of product offering, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Some of these offering is more about like you're learning on your own by yourself and acquire some skills. But we definitely have a number of products that we expect that people will have some interaction with each other, get feedback from each other. And since they're very early days, we have built our product in such a way. For example, we have discussion forums, we have peer reviews that allow people to actually submit your assessment and assignment and get feedback from other people. So that's definitely one way that people can learn from each other. On the other hand, if you actually look at our higher end product for like degrees or certificates, right? Those are historically operate at a smaller scale. So basically, it's instead of 1 to millions, is in the range of 1 to hundreds, right? So on those products, we have been working for a long time on making sure that the experience is not just about people individually learning, but we have a lot of integration with Slack, with Zoom, to allow people to interact with each other. We have office hours. We have instructor, led project and discussions. Those are a part of our platform already. Now, I think for the last few weeks, there's definitely a change. I think the change is about like, how do we merge these two things together? Like do it at scale, but also allow the interaction or the social aspect of that. So one thing that we have tried a few weeks ago is that we invited this professor who was the author of that course, The Science of Wellbeing from Yale University. She did a Coursera Live with us. Right? So we host an event. She's answering, just like this event, basically. She's talking about her course. Many of the students who have done this course go and ask her questions and share about their feedback on their experience after they have taken the courses. So it turned out that tens of thousands of people actually show up in that event and was pretty successful. I think that that can serve as a model on how we think about scale and also the interaction for our product as well.
Thank you, Richard. We have a question from AJ. Is there an opportunity to personalize education and learning at scale with the technology, connectivity, and content available today? Erica, what are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, I would say it goes back to the comment I mentioned earlier. So personalizing the content. So think about, we have 16,000 courses that are part of our library, right? And then we need to have the ability to create custom content that goes along with that. So we have a platform that allows you to do that, so you can merge the two and create a learning path and then broadcast it to that particular group of employees. Take a simple example of how you onboard employees within your company, right? You're going to have some things that are very, very custom content, and then you're going to have some things that are in the public library. So the way that you merge that, invite people, that's basically doing a personalized learning for employees. And then there's also, as an individual, personalized learning. Okay, the more I know about your skills and what you want to do and the job that you're interested in, we can then give you the best recommendations to recommend what you should be learning. And then obviously you have search, and making sure search is great so they find exactly what they want. So then that's more, there's an implicit and explicit way of getting those results to the learner.
Erica, is there, given being LinkedIn, you obviously you know pretty much everyone's career path, the trajectory, you can even probably project out where people are going to be. Is there any thought in the future product iterations to leverage artificial intelligence? And you look at a person that is currently a level 1 manager of engineering, right? And being able to project out, well, how do we get this person to be a senior manager, to be a director, to be a VP? Is there some artificial intelligence that could intelligently almost suggest a path for this particular person?
Yeah, and you're bringing up some prior product features that we had before, like on a path for students. And I think it's something that we probably want to resurrect and bring back, because we have all that data. But then it is really interesting, because I think maybe Richard touched on this a little bit. It's like your path doesn't define who you are. Sometimes people have a path and it's straight up, right? And it's like, yes, that's how I got here. And then sometimes it's kind of like this, and you did this. I mean, you're doing something entirely different than what you did before when you were at LinkedIn, right? So there's elements that when it's a straight path, obviously we have all the data and it can be there, but it kind of goes back to giving the right recommendations of what you're trying to do at that right time, because I get a little bit wary on these perfect paths. So I think folks can give you these recommendations to help you be successful in that moment right now, or where you want to go.
Correct. That's if you can predict it. You're right. Life is often not a straight line. It's a little choppy. Often it's choppy.
Very choppy.
And how about Richard? How about Coursera? How are you guys personalizing and learning at scale?
Yeah. So I think the term personalized is I would say a relatively ambiguous term, because it depends on how granular you're talking about personalization. I think there's definitely a lot of things already happening in our company or any education company. Is the basic thing is about, like, we have this huge catalog. Like, how do we find the things that it makes most sense for you based on the behavior, based on what you tell us about who you are. And I think that part is pretty standard. We have been doing a lot about this, and it's been pretty effective and motivating and getting the learners to engage with the content that they have shown interest in those, right? So that's definitely one area of personalization. But on the deeper level, sometimes when people talk about personalization, it's probably talking about like, okay, as an individual, me, Richard, I have these kind of skills, and I don't have these kind of skills. But my ultimate destination is to be like a senior engineer of mobile. How do we actually personalize the education? So even though the course material will be standard over there, but for me, maybe I need to spend more time on this part. And for Erica, she may need to spend more time on the other part, right? So that kind of personalization, I think, is still something that we are working on. I think technology probably will still take some time to get to fruition on that kind of level of personalization. But one thing that we are definitely doing is really leverage this concept we call skills graph within our organization. The concept is this. Coursera, if you actually look at our product, big part of that is the videos, the lectures that you can watch and learn skills, but we also have a lot of assessment. We have millions of assessments that is getting completed throughout the year to see what knowledge people actually have after they take the courses, and or even before they take the courses. So one of the product strategy we definitely have is about how do we identify people's competence level on different skills that they have based on the assessment and the score they have. And instead of telling them that this is a path you are going to, just go back to the conversation, we actually take a different approach. We are not telling them this is what you should be doing. We are asking you who you want to be. Like, what kind of skills do you want to be? It can be applied to individual level, and sometimes it applies to our enterprise customer level, because for a particular company, they probably will realize that, oh, my company is not competitive enough versus the competitors because we are missing the mobile development skills, or we are missing the big data skills, right? So that create an existential crisis for the company. So for them, maybe what they want to do is they say that I want my engineers, I want my staff to be able to improve their big data skills from 50% of the benchmark of the industry to 75th percentile of the industry, right? So this is a type of data that we have and insight that we have, and we are creating a product in a way that we can tell our enterprise customer or even individuals to say that if you want to bring your big data skills from here to there, these are the paths, these are the courses, these are the modules that you should spend your time to master. And these are the type of recommendations and personalization that we are doing to help them out.
Yeah, I just want to plus one to what Richard said. I think the assessments and understanding the gap, because everybody is not starting from the same level, is super key. And we're doing a similar thing as well, where we have assessments on the LinkedIn Learning platform. You can take a multiple choice, you take some questions, you kind of know, and then showcase your skills, right, on your profile and be like, hey, this is what I'm really great at, or hey, this is where the gap is, to Richard's point, and this is where, here's some courses to recommend to get better at that. So it's just very much aligned and love it. So it's great.
Excellent. There's a question about degrees and certificates. There are lots of certificates or nano degrees offered by online education platforms nowadays. What is the practical value these certificates offer in your minds?
So maybe I can start with that. I think many of the product does not define by the product name itself. I think ultimately it comes down to the quality of the product. It comes down to what is the outcome of the product. So I would say that if you actually think about the world today, probably college degree is still one of the most important credential that is still most valuable, I would say, at this moment, right? So many of us, including myself, right, have a chance to get a job. It's because we had a chance to go through college education. And of course, after that, I think all of us need to continue to be learning, lifelong learning, in order to catch up with what's going on in the industry. And many of that is no longer the credential. It's about the skills that we continue to learn. So there's no bachelor degrees for mobile development. There's no bachelor degrees for big data like this, right? So it's all the skills that we need to continue to learn. So I think it really depends on the stage of the quality of the credential and also the stage of that person's career. Mm-hmm. So if you ask me about hey, should we ask everyone in the world not to care about going to college and get a credential and just go and learn something? That would not be my advice. On the other hand, if you ask me hey, should we just have everyone go and get a degree and forget about all the other learnings? That would also not be my advice. I think these two things are both important, like, and that's how the society and everyone needs to move forward with new skills and way to actually advance the society. Now, go back to the point about, like, for some of these like non-degree credentials, what is the value of that? I think it depends. Like, some of this credential is much more established. For example, like, let's not even talk about Coursera or LinkedIn, right? But we have credentials for accountants, we have credentials for system administrators, we have credentials for auditors, right? There are some very well-established credentials that everyone recognizes, and those are critical and important. Or even as a realtor, you have credentials,
yes.
right? And those are important credentials. And there are some credentials, maybe, you know, it's less well established, maybe they are newer, or maybe they are fewer demand. So I think it really depends on what that credential is and what the job outcome is. That said, I would say that the world is evolving very quickly. I think a lot of people in the past think that university degrees is the only credential that matters. Nowadays, I think many people are looking for a wider range of credential. Credential basically is a proof that you have acquired some skills, right? So many people actually do take into account. For example, one of the credentials that we have offered with in partnership with Google is this Google IT Support Certificate. So we launch it on our platform. We have a number of industry partners working with us together, and say that all the graduates coming for graduate with that credentials, Google IT Support Certificate credential, will have job opportunities, or at least a different pipeline to get into their job interview process. So this is one type of recognition that you see that people are already doing on this credential. Also, this Google IT Support Certificate credential, not just about companies are recognizing it. Some university is saying that, like, if you have got that credentials, then you can actually waive some of the credits when you get into college.
Wow.
So,
That's
you know,
huge.
things are evolving in the world on these like sub-university credential on how they're going to impact people's career or academic outcome. So this is like what we have been seeing. There's still a lot of work to do, and but I think things are changing fast.
Yeah, those degrees. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to add on. I think it is evolving quite a bit. And yes, I agree, 4-year degree, that's really, really important. But there's also, I think we need to expand our minds that that's not the only path. And going back to what Richard said, proving that you have the skill or that you can learn the skill. So as a perfect example, we have this program at Reach that it's called Reach. We piloted it about 3 years ago, where we just put it out there and said, hey, anybody apply. If you have the grit, tenacity, you want to learn, you want to be an engineer, come here and work at LinkedIn, and we'll teach you how to code. And if you're able to get to qualified to an apprentice level engineer, we'll hire you. And it was actually really, really successful. And we are now running in our 3rd year. And now we're able to see that trajectory of those people change, where they're now qualified as engineers. I think it really depends on the field, right? If it's a doctor, I want that certificate, right? But if you're basically an engineer, there's certain things that are in the field that you don't need that. But if you can prove that you can learn and you can prove that you have the skill, to Richard's point, I think that's where I'd love people to switch to. And because it is evolving, and also everybody doesn't have the same starting point. And that's where you can get a little bit more fairness when it comes to education as well.
It reminds me a lot, Richard, your certificate, your Google certificate reminds me a lot of in the early days, the MCNE, right? The Microsoft degree, or the CCIE at Cisco, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They may not have gone to college, but they are experts at this particular type of networking. And you better bet that we need those skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, I you know, absolutely. I think the thing that I would add here is there's no single answer for this. Like, people actually all starting from a different place. They have all different goals at the end. And I think for both LinkedIn and Coursera and many of companies, being able to offer like being able to provide solutions to different types of people. Like for us, for example, right, we have courses all the way from shorter courses that allow people to just acquire some skills, right, simple skills, to bigger skills, and all the way to the degrees. I think that is a strategy that we basically say there's no one solution. Yeah. It's like everyone has a different need, and everyone will get the outcome of that when they make that choice.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the question from Carrie. What do your companies do to set an example to create job opportunities for people who obtain the skill through online learning or other approach out of university? I guess we had a little bit of discussion about that. How do you see that we can push through and change the culture? I understand what Carrie is saying. You guys have mentioned a little bit, Eric, I heard a little bit about the program LinkedIn is doing. But yeah, predominantly though, I know recruiting, they tend to sift through and they're looking for the top schools, they're looking for that undergrad degree, and then they're looking for that master's degree. I've noticed that bias a lot in the Valley, not necessarily your companies, but there's certainly that bias. I know recruiters do recruit that way. How are your companies, and Eric, you mentioned a little bit of this, creating that opportunity for people outside of that normal norm?
Yeah, so I mentioned the REACH program, but another program that we're piloting is called Project Shine, where how can we get someone into like customer support roles, for example? What are some learning paths that they can learn? And if they prove they have the skill, we guaranteed them a job interview at LinkedIn. And this is just a pilot, we just kicked it off. But is that another way where you kind of remove some of those biases? You don't have to have this checklist of you did this before, you have this 4-year degree, and you know, you can really get caught up in that checklist. So the more that we can be open with different programs and try this out on different fields, I think we'll be really successful. And I'll talk about myself personally. You know, I was very nervous. I was the first person in my family to graduate. It took me 7 years to graduate. And I didn't know if, you know, comparing someone that, you know, went to some of these top elite schools, and I didn't go to a top elite school, and just wondering those biases, they exist. And I think the more that we can be a little bit more blind to those things, and even test ourselves if we're being blind. I know they even did I'll put myself out here, where they did a test comparing blind profiles, and they're like, who would you hire? And they said, oh, that person, not that person. And then they revealed the profile, and oh, that was Erica. You wouldn't hire her. Great, great job. She's working here at LinkedIn, right? So I think we need to just kind of create these awarenesses and these biases that we have, that we don't even know we have them. And so I think maybe even when you're hiring even people with qualified degrees or qualified experience, are you hiring the same type of people that look like you and are like you? You want to have a diverse set of people and diversity of thought. So I go back to diversity of thought. If I have an amazing team, I want to have a different thought leadership at the table so I can build the best product. And that's like, you know, background, gender, everything, race. I think the whole thing matters. And so I have some of the best engineers on my team where their background is so dynamic. It's not that checklist, and it's awesome. And so I think the more we can do that, the better.
I love that. I love that. Rich, how about at Coursera? How are you addressing this at Coursera?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that some of the things that I think a lot of things that we're doing is very common, is about like, how do we identify a set of people that has very diverse background compared to have a diverse background that can actually better contribute to ideas and be able to bring to the table on what they can do. So, I mean, a few things that we're definitely working on is we are partnering with a number of organizations outside of our company to, you know, tap into the groups that may be underrepresented at Coursera. It can be based on their ethnicity, or it may be gender. So like there are lots of things that we see that in a society and the representation we have at Coursera, we're not good enough in terms of representing the users, the user base that we have, the customer base that we have. So we're definitely working with them very actively in order to actually build up our company. Now, specifically, there's one thing that is interesting at Coursera is that we really actually take it to heart about like what are the career opportunities that we can bring to people after they graduate from our program. So some of them is that we are finding industry partners to hire the people that graduate from our program, but we are also trying our best to hire some of these graduates from for Coursera. So we have brought in interns, we have brought in some full-time employees from the graduates on this program at Coursera. They are not college graduates. Maybe they're doing college, or they don't even have a college degree. They were working on something different, but they actually made up their mind and drive their career transformation by saying, oh, I need to learn some skills and how to become an IT support specialist and how to become a software engineer. So some of these people, they apply for Coursera. After that, they are seeing that we are trying to do that, and we definitely have a few cases that people end up actually getting a job at our team. So we are very excited about these kind of opportunities.
That's cool.
That's wonderful. I think that there's so much bias, like you said, that stigma around not having a college degree. I mean, even in our industry, we interview a lot of folks, and just because you have a degree from a university or you work for certain companies, that doesn't mean everything, right? Especially in our business, where really it's about integrity and hard work, and being able to really work like you've never worked before. We found that actually folks that maybe haven't had those opportunities that others had in corporations or different universities, they actually have a stronger work ethic sometimes because they've had to go through much worse situations, right? And so yeah, that bias always bothered me. I love that both of your companies are at the forefront of trying to eliminate those biases and just bring in good quality talent that could really add value to the company. Right? That doesn't mean just because you have a degree that's going to make you a great employee. I don't think so at all.
And I love the way that you just said that, Alan, because one thing that I just kind of gets under my skin sometimes when people say, oh, we want to look at different diversity of thought and everything. Oh, are we lowering the bar? And I just I go crazy a little bit, because if anything, what we're doing is we're raising the bar. And we have to realize that we're actually raising the bar when we bring in that diverse talent, and it's totally different. So I don't know if anybody hears that, please
fix that right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Erica and Richard, thank you both so much for being here. I want to hand the floor back to Max. Max, I'm going to hand the floor back to you. Thank you again for having us. Thank you both for being here and providing us your insight. Max, take it away.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like everybody, I think you guys enjoyed the talk with Erica, Richard, have the debate, regarding the future of education, like what kind of situation they're facing right now, what kind of challenge they're facing, in terms of how we predict the kind of future. Like it's quite interesting, and this kind of topic is serious. We're gonna put a lot of like executives to share their ideas in different industries. Like in the future, we're gonna invite some people from Slack, from Zoom. They're gonna discuss about what's the future remote work like how the company add value for that. This kind of topic is kind of interesting. And as SVLC, as a community, you guys can pay attention to our like weekly report to just get attention with that. And personally, I'm really wanting to bring more and more great mind, the great idea to the community, as well as like some funny people, like talking about what their life is. It's kind of different. It's really different from what we had before, but at the same time we are kind of really looking forward to the future, right? So whenever the pandemic is ever ended, we're gonna miss the time, right? We're gonna miss all the periods we are experiencing right now. So like, thank you again, Richard, Erica, and Alan for the fantastic conversation. And I really honored like you guys spending like 1.5 hours with our audiences. So like, keep in touch, and see you again. Probably next our like offline meetings sometime, probably this year. Okay. So thank you, Zach, guys, so much. Thank you for your time, and we're gonna end the meeting. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.